Su Kai's tragic accident while paying his last respects to Yu Menglong. The air was heavy with grief the day Su Kai decided to pay his last respects to his fallen friend, Yu Menglong. The city seemed quieter, its usual bustle muted under a veil of mourning. Billboards that once shone brightly with faces of stars felt like silent ghosts. For Su Kai, every corner of the city carried echoes of Menglong. His laughter, his presence, the unspoken brotherhood they shared. He had ignored the warnings from his manager, the calls urging him to stay back for his own safety. To him, respect was not optional. It was a final duty, a final promise to a man he once considered family. The journey began under a sky smeared with gray clouds, as though heaven itself had refused to shine. Su Kai sat in the back seat of the car, his gaze fixed on the black suit folded neatly beside him. It wasn't just fabric, it was armor, his way of carrying dignity into a battlefield of emotions. His hands trembled slightly as he held onto a white chrysanthemum, the flower of mourning. He whispered, "Wait for me, Menglong. I'll see you soon." The streets grew crowded as they neared the memorial. Fans had gathered in waves, their sobs blending into the sound of candles burning and photos fluttering in the wind. Security struggled to control the tide of people pressing forward, each desperate to leave a flower, a note, a prayer. The world had lost a star, but for Su Kai, it was the loss of a friend. When he finally stepped out of the car, the cameras erupted like thunder. Reporters shouted questions, flashes pierced his eyes, but he barely heard any of it. His steps were heavy, deliberate, as if every move forward was a fight against the gravity of grief pulling him down. He reached the altar draped in black and white, Yu Menglong's photo smiling back at him with cruel irony. That same smile, once full of life, now framed in mourning. Su Kai's knees almost buckled, but he forced himself steady. He knelt before the altar, placing the chrysanthemum gently on the bed of flowers already covering the floor. His lips moved, but no sound came out at first. Then, barely a whisper, he said, "I should have protected you. I should have been there." His shoulders trembled as he pressed his forehead against the cold floor. In that moment, the world fell away. It was just him and the memory of his friend. But fate, cruel and unpredictable, was not finished writing its story that day. As Su Kai rose to his feet, the crowd outside surged. Someone screamed, a chain reaction of panic rippling through the people gathered at the entrance. A car, losing control, came barreling toward the crowd. Tires screeched, metal groaned, and chaos erupted. Security guards shouted, pushing people aside, but the wave of panic was faster than any order. Su Kai barely had time to react. The car spun wildly, crashing against barriers, glass shattering into the air like jagged rain. In the frenzy, someone shoved forward, knocking him off balance. He fell hard against the steps, pain shooting through his side. The next moment was a blur of sound, the deafening crunch of metal, the cries of people, the thud of bodies hitting the ground. He felt the rush of air as the car veered terrifyingly close, missing him by mere inches. The world tilted. Blood roared in his ears. For a second, he thought this was it, that he would be joining Menglong in death, two friends reunited too soon. The thought chilled him, yet oddly brought peace. But then hands grabbed him, pulling him back, dragging him out of harm's way. His chest heaved violently as he gasped for breath, his vision blurred by sweat and tears. The scene around him was devastation. Fans lay injured, some crying, others in shock. Security scrambled to restore order. The car sat wrecked against the barricade, its engine still groaning like a wounded beast. Su Kai's suit was torn at the shoulder. Blood streaked across his arm from a cut he hadn't noticed. Reporters who moments ago clamored for statements now screamed into their cameras about tragedy piling upon tragedy. But Su Kai's mind was elsewhere. As he sat on the steps, clutching his ribs, his gaze fell again on Yu Menglong's portrait. His friend's smile stared back, frozen in time. Su Kai's lips trembled as he whispered, "Even now, go. You're still pulling me back from the edge. You saved me." Tears blurred his vision until the photo melted into nothing more than light and shadow. Paramedics rushed to him, urging him onto a stretcher. He refused at first, shaking his head. "I can still stand. I came here for him. I can't leave like this." But his body betrayed him. When he tried to rise, his legs gave way, collapsing beneath the weight of shock. His vision darkened, the noise around him fading into a hollow echo. Before everything went black, he felt the cool touch of the chrysanthemum he had placed earlier still in his hand, as though he had never let go. Hours later, Su Kai woke in a hospital bed, the sterile scent of disinfectant flooding his senses. His body ached, his arm stitched where glass had cut deep. His manager sat beside him, relief etched across his face. "You almost died out there," he said softly. Su Kai turned his head slowly toward the window. Beyond the glass, the city still mourned Yu Menglong. Candles flickered like stars in the distance, a vigil that seemed endless. "I went to say goodbye," Su Kai whispered hoarsely, "but he wouldn't let me join him yet." The weight of that realization crushed him and lifted him all at once. He had gone to honor a friend, and in the process had brushed against death himself. Yet, in surviving, he felt the message clearer than words. His life was not his to throw away. Perhaps Menglong's final gift to him was this, reminding him that he still had to live, even when living hurt. Su Kai's tragic accident while paying his last respects to Yu Menglong. The days after the accident turned into weeks, yet the echo of that night clung to Su Kai like a second skin he could not shed. The hospital discharged him, but in his heart he felt like a man still trapped under the wreckage. Each step outside felt like walking through a world that had changed colors, duller, heavier, almost suffocating. At night, he sat by the window of his apartment, staring at the city lights that flickered like tired stars. Sometimes he caught himself whispering Menglong's name, as though saying it could pull him back into the room. But silence always answered. Silence, and the faint hum of cars below, reminding him of the accident he had barely survived. One evening, when the city was drowned in rain, Su Kai found himself walking alone toward the riverside where he and Menglong used to take late-night strolls during shoots. The pavement glistened, mirroring the street lamps, and every droplet seemed to echo louder than his own footsteps. He paused at the railing, water rushing beneath him, and let the storm soak him through. For a moment, he thought of what it would feel like to lean forward, to surrender to the current. But then Menglong's laughter, clear and warm, like the sound of wind chimes, rushed into his memory. That sound pulled him back, anchoring him. "I can't leave you twice," Su Kai muttered, fists clenched, tears hidden in the rain. In the weeks that followed, he immersed himself in silence, avoiding friends, avoiding parties, avoiding anything that smelled of the industry. But fans wouldn't let him disappear. They flooded his social media with messages of love, grief, and fear. Some begged him to take care of himself. Others told him he carried a piece of Menglong's soul now. At first, their words only deepened his guilt. What right did he have to survive when Menglong hadn't? But slowly, like a seed watered every day, those voices planted something new in him. Responsibility. One morning, he opened a drawer he had left untouched for weeks. Inside was a small box Menglong had given him once, laughing that it was nothing special. Inside, Su Kai found a folded note, yellowed at the edges, where Menglong had scribbled during a shoot. The words were simple. "If one day I fall, don't let it be the end. Promise me you'll keep walking, even when I can't." His hands trembled as he read it. The note felt like prophecy, like Menglong had seen the shadows long before anyone else had. Su Kai pressed the paper to his chest, sobbing in a way he hadn't since the funeral. And for the first time his tears didn't feel like weakness, they felt like a vow. He began visiting the restaurant again, the one where Menglong had eaten his last meal. He sat in the same seat, ordered the same dishes, and sometimes even left a plate untouched across from him, as though saving it for a ghost. The staff recognized him but never spoke, only serving with quiet respect. It became his ritual, a silent communion with the past. Fans started leaving flowers on the table whenever they spotted him there, turning it into something sacred. Soon, the restaurant walls were covered with notes, origami cranes, and letters addressed to Menglong. It became a sanctuary not just for Su Kai, but for everyone who had loved him. Su Kai would read some of the letters late into the night, tears blurring his vision, marveling at how many lives Menglong had touched. But grief is not linear. Some days, Su Kai woke with fire in his chest, determined to live brightly for both of them. Other days, he couldn't even get out of bed, crushed by the weight of memories that whispered he had failed his friend. The accident haunted him. The screech of tires the moment of falling, the strange warmth that had lifted him when death brushed past. He couldn't shake the feeling that Menglong had been there in that instant, shielding him, giving him back the life he almost lost. One night, unable to sleep, he walked into his living room and stared at the awards they had once joked about. Golden trophies gleamed under the dim light, but they felt empty. He whispered into the silence, "What's the point of these if you're not here to share them?" His voice cracked. "You always said we'd celebrate together. You broke that promise, Ga. Or maybe I broke mine." He sank to the floor, clutching one of the trophies, until exhaustion pulled him into uneasy sleep. Yet, through the cracks of his grief, purpose grew. Offers for projects came in, and though he rejected most, one script caught his eye, a story about two brothers torn apart by fate, yet forever bound by love. Reading it felt like a wound reopening, but also like a path toward healing. Su Kai accepted, telling himself it wasn't just a role,